All right, so today I have the pleasure of being joined by Paul Hamann. He is a 30-year educator from the state of Washington, a former sports official. Like myself, I'm a Little League umpire. He spent a lot of time refereeing basketball games. He's an avid baseball stadium enthusiast. He's been to over 50 professional major league ballparks, some that are now gone, and then obviously some that are still here today. He has his own Substack, which I do recommend everybody goes and checks out. I'll give you the link here. It's paulsballparks.substack.com, which I'll be sure to include the link on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube when I upload it. I met Paul last summer at a Red Sox game. I believe it was end of June, Red Sox Reds. Paul and his great family were sitting behind me. It was a pleasure being able to meet them there, and we talked about
Inside the park home run, Will you Abreu?
exactly. And the Red Sox were up, what, 8-0 in that first inning or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, they beat the crap out of Chase Burns.
They did, which doesn't happen
Hmm.
often, as you've seen in his career so far.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you filled the stat sheets that day. I know you like to keep score of the game. So the Red Sox first couple innings definitely kept you busy. But a
Hmm.
pleasure having you on today, Paul. Thank you so much for your time. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Glad to hear it. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's
Hmm.
busy, obviously, over the course of the year. As somebody that works in education, I know you're obviously always working and on the go. So the summertime is kind of your only time you get a little free time. So thank you for making the time today for this. As
No,
I
I
mentioned,
love it.
absolutely. It is awesome. And I
Hmm.
said, I mentioned earlier when I had you and, sitting behind me at the Red Sox and we talked about doing this a year ago and somehow, some way we found a way a year later to make it happen. So thank you again. I'm excited for
Hmm.
this and
Hmm.
obviously got to meet your family at that game. Aaron, Steven, Michelle, all great big baseball fans like yourself.
Hmm.
So being able to have you today and talk some ball and hear about all the
Fantastic.
ballparks you've seen is great. So thank you.
Hmm.
All right, so we'll start with my first question, which I do always for every episode. I have a million questions that I throw onto a document, which I shared that with you. We
Uh-huh.
won't hit every one of them, but the main one, obviously, that I felt like was best to start with was how did you start your journey of visiting ballparks? You've seen so many now across the country. Where was the start of that?
Started out was really 1993. So I was 23 years old at that point. I had grown up in Denver before they had a major league team. And I liked baseball, but I was not a huge baseball fan as a kid. I grew up with the Broncos were everything, those great Bronco teams of the 80s. The Denver Nuggets were very good in the 80s. So I was an NBA guy first. And then I went to college, and then I was living in Louisiana. And the plan was it was my first year teaching, and that summer I was going to go and live with my girlfriend and spend the summer with her, and then go back and teach my second year. And then the relationship ended, and I didn't have anything to do. And so I just decided, okay, I'm going to just go to as many major league ballparks as I can. And so I ran up some money on my credit card, but that got paid off eventually. And I went to 9 ballparks that summer throughout the Midwest. I got as far east as Philadelphia. I went as far west as St. Louis, both Chicago's, Milwaukee, Houston. I did them all. And I fell in love with the game that summer in a way that I had not before. Like I grew to understand the appeal of baseball. I liked baseball growing up, but I grew to really, really love it just from driving around all of these trips, all of these places on that big trip. I didn't know I was trying to get to all of the ballparks until about 10 years later when I was looking and I was like, oh, I'm about to get to all of the major league ballparks. It's just, a few more trips, a few more years, and I'll have it done. And I was 33 when I realized that. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, I'm about to finish a frivolous life goal. And I don't know what to do after I finish a frivolous life goal. Like what's left at that point? And I decided that it was not likely that I would make it to all of the minor league ballparks just because at the time there were 180 of them. But I liked minor league ball, and so I decided I wanted to go to a minor league game in all 50 states. And I said to my girlfriend, I think I want to go to a minor league in all 50 states. And she said, I have a long weekend coming up for the 4th of July. Let's drive to Spokane and Boise to get you started. And now I did marry her eventually, but what happened was we went there, and this summer I took a trip to Louisiana and Mississippi. So I'm now done with the lower 48, and I will go to Hawaii and Alaska next year, and then that frivolous life goal will be done, and I will need another one. I think the next one is going to be to go to see the Mariners in all of the ballparks. That is probably the next one. That'll be a lot harder to do, but I will do that. I'm also starting to like college basketball because those venues are also fun to go to, and my older son really enjoys those. And so I've been to maybe a dozen of those at that point, just up and down the West Coast. But that's another thing. That's hard to do when you're a teacher, though. But maybe after I retire, I'll start thinking about that as well. I think I need to win the lottery, but yeah. But that's how it all got started. Was just I had a summer where I suddenly had nothing to do, and I decided to go to ballparks.
It's honestly really special how you did it, right? You kind of fell into it, like you said, just starting with a few, and then it really
Mhm.
grew to something that was obviously then a life goal. And then obviously too, the great part of everything you've been doing is you've documented it, right? You have obviously keep score of the games. You have a
Yes.
Substack that you write about a lot of the ballparks and your reviews on the games. Like that's all really special. And you have a log basically for the rest of your life. You could always turn back and say, "Oh, I remember I went to, like you said, Spokane. I wish I remember what happened in that game. Oh, wait, you have the scorebook right in front of you. You already see what happens in the game. Like it's really special."
Not only do I have the score books, but I have a gigantic spreadsheet where I keep all of the stats so that if someday somebody showed up and said, Paul, I need to know who has the most triples in road games among second basemen of games you've been to. Like I can get that for you in a few clicks if you really want that. And I like having that. So I update that both a major league and in a minor league spreadsheet. So I have all of that ready to go.
Wow, that's really special. That's great how you document it all. And reading all your writing has been awesome. You are a terrific writer. I hope you know
Oh,
that.
thank you.
You are a great writer. Everything you write, very engaging. And obviously, too, when you have so many reviews, right? There's 50, obviously, stadiums you've seen that are major league stadiums. Every single one's different. All of your reviews are different. The way you
Mhm.
create each stadium's different. That's what makes all of your writing very special. And how did you come up with the idea of creating a Substack and, journaling all of those games?
Well, it hasn't always been a Substack. Like I started doing this in 2001, and the internet was very different then. Back then, it was a GeoCities site, so really old viewers of yours will remember that. And I just decided I wanted to keep track of the major league ballparks. At the time, it was 20 something that I'd been to. But like, there are sources out there where you can go and learn about the ballpark. And so that's not really what I write. Like I don't write, hey, here's what's cool about here's the outfield measurements and here's when it was built and whatever. What I do instead is I write about my experience there. This is essentially a memoir through baseball. And I've been writing it. I started writing it when I was 31, and I'm writing about, Tiger Stadium, which was the first one I went to when I was 10. And then I'm writing about, that summer when I'm 23 and I'm concerned with 23-year-old things. And now I'm old, man. Now I'm 56 and I've got teenage kids and I'm experiencing the ballparks in a different way then. And so when you're reading these, yeah, it's a review. It's me telling you what I think about Batavia or whatever. But it's also here's who I was then. Here's what I experienced then. And so some of the older stuff right now is like, ooh, that doesn't feel like me anymore. But I just keep it because it's a slice of me. And so with 50 major league ballparks and 85 minor league ballparks, plus two that I was there for a rainout, so 87 minor league ballparks, I have been. You can see me at all of the parts of my life, and it's like I read somewhere, this is a metaphor that I like. It's like the height chart on the wall. Like the ballparks don't change. I change against them. And so you can sort of see that as I'm going to ballpark through the years. And you can also see America change. Like, going to those multi-purpose, veteran stadium and Three Rivers and whatever, like going to those versus going to these new palaces, like, the Braves new ballpark. It's you can see sort of the country and baseball change along the way too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Times definitely have changed, obviously, within the game, like you noted. And I love how you said you see a different, version of yourself in all of those,
Yeah.
pieces of writing, which I always said the way you can tell if someone's a great writer is, in my opinion, is you can hear their voice in their writing, and everything you write, you can hear your voice. Like you said,
Well,
you
I
get to see your
appreciate that.
work back
Thank you.
in. And truly, no, every single piece of your writing is engaging. And I'll talk about the book that you have published as well. At some point at the end, I'll ask you about that. But excited to hear
All right.
your thoughts on how everything's been going there. But when you've been looking at all these ballparks over the years, what are some of the categories for anyone that hasn't seen any of your work? What are some of the categories you look at in scoring criteria at each of these ballparks?
Well, I mean, I score using a rubric for minor league ballparks, but the most important thing, like the by far the most important thing when I'm at a ballpark is, do I know where in the country I am at? If I'm going to a ballpark in Knoxville, Tennessee, do I know I am in the South? Do I know I am in Tennessee? Do I know I am in Knoxville? There are a lot of ways to do that. It can be the food, it can be the view, it can be the accents of the people around me, it can be the promotions, the team name, the music that they play. But do I know where I am? And that's easier to do at the minor league than at the major league, by the way, because major league ballparks are corporate enough that sometimes they all feel quite similar. It's also happening at the new beautiful minor league ballparks as they start to feel a little similar to each other. So is it clear where in the United States I am just when I'm sitting watching the baseball game? Now there are other things I like a lot. There's one category I have called circumnavigability, which is for the pavilion, which is, can I walk around the entire ballpark and be looking out at the game the entire time I'm walking around the ballpark? That is hugely important to me because in the minor league, when you got all sorts of weird stuff going on, but the baseball is the center. The baseball is the reason we're here. The baseball is what is happening, and we can look at that and enjoy that. Like it's literally central to the experience if you're walking around and doing that. Like I don't like a lot of big, huge, the Braves have a climbing wall. I'm like, you don't need a climbing wall at your ballpark. You like, oh, I'm going to a baseball game so that I can climb. Like I don't think anybody's ever said that. In Detroit they've got the big Ferris wheel. Okay, fine. And what's funny is people say, well, you need that because the kids need something to do. And I'm like, I never experienced that with my kids. The something to do is you watch a baseball game. And yeah, we'll walk out and we'll get you nachos, but like you're there for the baseball. And like I want the baseball to be central and not ancillary. In general, with the promotions, the lower the level of the minors, the more promotions I want. But don't put them between pitches. Don't put them between batters. Put them all between innings. And you can go crazy between innings. But once that first batter comes up until the last batter is out of the inning, I want the baseball to be why we're here. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love how you mentioned the regional feel being a difference between each ballpark, which is the truth of it. I think you're right. I've only
Yeah.
been to Citi Field, the new, obviously, Yankee Stadium, and then
Mhm.
the Red Sox, Fenway Park. So I've only been to those three, and all of those are different in many ways, right? Fenway's got that old nostalgic
Even
feel.
Citi Field and Yankee Stadium are different. Like my brother had it nailed when he went to Citi Field. My brother was there on a business trip and he was with a guy from Germany. And so he's trying to teach this guy baseball, and this guy is walking around in this very sort of outlandish, cutting edge, German outfit. And people are like looking at him. And my brother said, and at Citi Field, these guys are heating and air conditioning guys. And I'm like, that's it. That right there captures Citi Field, especially as opposed to Yankee Stadium, is these are heating and air conditioning guys. Heating and air conditioning guys don't typically go to Yankee Stadium. They go not well to Shea, but now to Citi Field. But like, yeah, everything is a little bit different, and even within New York, they're a little bit different. And Dodger Stadium and Anaheim are a little bit different. And gosh, the two in Chicago are wildly different.
Mhm.
And then of course, and then in New York, don't forget you've got a third ballpark there too. You got Brooklyn.
Yep.
And that's a little bit different because it's minor league, but also you're looking out at Coney Island and the amusement park and the literal ocean. If you crane your neck just right, you can see that. Like everything is even just a subway ride away from each other. They have a different feel for where you are in New York City, and I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a great way to put it, is they all have a different feel. And like you
Mhm.
said, yeah, I'd say Citi Field has a different vibe than Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium has that corporate vibe. You'll see some people in some suits and stuff, especially,
Mhm.
those premium seats that are down below. But Citi Field, I don't know, it just feels so open. It's a new ballpark as well. But everything, when you're sitting around there, it just feels like everything's close to you, right? There's food right next to you. There's great promotions. You stay engaged. There wasn't a bad seat, which I've sat in the fifth level and I think the third level now, at a game at City
Yeah.
Field. And you don't have a bad view of the ballpark anywhere you are. There's no obstruction really, unless you're in, I think, left field underneath some of the boards or whatever. There might be some in
Mhm.
far left field. But besides that, it's a great view. And I feel like the whole ballpark just feels open. You have a great view of the city from there.
It
It's really
is.
cool.
The best, and I'm not a big ballpark food guy just because I have sort of legendarily sensitive stomach. But the
Mhm.
best food I've ever had at a ballpark was a pastrami sandwich at Citi Field. It was so good, so locally appropriate. It was about, $500, I think, but it was like really, really great. And it was like, oh, I know where I am right now. And let's not forget the personality disorders of Mets fans. That also adds to the feel of Citi Field because I was there, they were losing to the Braves, and people were going bonkers around me. And it's different. Like, I haven't ever seen the Yankees lose at home. I saw them win at the old place and I saw them win at the new place. But like when I remember they were losing in the first game, and there was sort of a sense of entitlement about the fans complaining. It's like, how dare you? You're the Yankees. Whereas with the Mets, it's like, here we go again. And you can feel that in the ballpark. And for what it's worth, that's done a lot better out east than here in the West. Like that feeling is a little more intense east of the Mississippi.
Makes sense. Right. Like you said, regional feel. It's a great way to put it. I'd say
Yep.
definitely that's accurate. At a Mets game, I went to two this year. So one that was second game of the year, they ended up having a walk-off home run
Oh,
by Luis
cool.
Robert Jr. So that was great. Seeing that vibe of the fan base going crazy was great. And then I saw them play the Dodgers a few weeks ago, and they kind of got smoked. They somewhat made it closer towards the end, but they were down like 4 or 5 runs a lot of that game. And like you said, it was everyone in the crowd was, oh, here we go again. Like you said, it was a great way to put it. Everyone has that same feel of here we go, just another game where we're
And
down
it's
five
different
nothing
because,
early.
like, the team that I have an emotional connection to is the Seattle Mariners.
Mhm.
And, they're the only major league team that's never been to a World Series. And there's a lot of here we go again at Mariners games, but it's not the same
Mhm.
because at a Mariners game, it's like, oh, here we go again. Well, I'll go have some sushi. Whereas at the Mets game, it's like, oh, here we go again, and my life has no meaning. And it's very, very different feeling between the two.
Mhm. Mets fans are definitely passionate, as the Mariners fans are too, I'm sure, out there in Seattle. But Mets
They
fans
are
are passionate.
passionate, and I felt that in the playoffs last year.
Mhm.
Going to the ALCS game, I was at Game 5 where Eugenio Suarez hit the grand slam for the win, which was something else because I've been a partial Mariners season ticket holder since 2003. And the idea is for me, a bucket list item is to go to a World Series game. And I say, oh, well, this is how I'm going to do it. 2003, 33 years old. I'm like, I will get the lowest level of season tickets that I can that give me playoff rights. And I will just keep doing it. And I will wait until the Mariners make a World Series. And that's how I'm going to go to a World Series game. Well, here I am now. Here I am now, old enough to be aware that I have limited time left. And I'm like, that might not happen. And when I'm at that game, there was a woman that my wife spotted that was wearing a button, and the button just had a man's picture on it, and the caption was "Dad." And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Like, we've been waiting so long, and she's here hoping that this team finds its way into the World Series, and she's honoring that dude. And like so there's emotion around it, there's a story around it. And I guess that's what it comes down to, Joey, is that like for me, and this, I'm an English teacher, story is why I like sports. I like sports because I like stories. And the sad, sick story of the Seattle Mariners is the one that I've committed myself to. And as I'm there and we're all feeling this hope and knowing that it's going to get dashed, and then I see this woman with a thing that says dad. And I'm like, okay, there's a man who died before he got a chance to experience today, but he's here. And like, moments like that, those are the stories that I like. And, when I'm at any game, I'm watching the Mets and Braves. I know my story. And okay, here's what brought me to New York in the summer of 2021. And I know the story of the Mets, which is kind of a sad story too. And I know the story of the Braves. Charlie Morton's on the mound for the Braves. And I don't remember who was pitching for the Mets that day. But like, all of these stories are coming together in this one situation right here. And I love that. I really, really love that.
Mhm.
Like that's why I like baseball, and that's why I like doing it in all of these different places because Also, I like American history. I've taught some American history, and like each of these places is a part of history as well, like their local history, and especially in the minor leagues. I want you to put your local history out there. My favorite minor league park, tied for the top, but Reading, Pennsylvania has a park that celebrates for the Fightin' Phils. It celebrates every player who has been through there who went on to the Hall of Fame. They have a bar there with like 3 foot by 2 foot posters of the baseball cards of every dude who played there who went on to the Hall of Fame. So there's Ricky Henderson, and there's Satchel Paige, and there's all the Phillies guys, Mike Schmidt, there they all are. And whether they were there as a home team or playing for the visitors, like they're all honored there. And then you go underneath, and they've got, here are all of the teams from this county that have won a state championship in either baseball or softball. They've got those teams listed, and they've got local kids from the county who made it to the majors, even for a cup of coffee. Their names are there, and it's like, I love that, man. I love it. I get choked up thinking about it. It's like we have a place that is a cathedral to baseball and to this team and to this city. And like, if you're doing it right, that's what it feels like.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. Each place has its own story, right? Like you said,
Yes, yes.
it's the history of each ballpark that's special too, right? Like we look at the major league stadiums, everybody knows Fenway, Wrigley, even the old Yankee Stadium that had a lot of history, right?
Mhm.
But these minor league ballparks, there's some hidden gems, right? Like no one talks about Reading, Pennsylvania, probably as much as they should. But you just mentioned how beautiful of a place that is there and going to a game, which that brings me to my next question. You've been obviously with a lot of minor league games. You've probably seen a lot of guys that were young prospects that became studs down the line at
Uh-huh.
the major league level. Are there any like former prospects that ended up being stars at the major league level that you saw play before they became the player they became?
Yes, and the thing is, you don't know it then. Like the
Mhm,
only reason I know this is because I keep my spreadsheet.
mhm,
On my spreadsheet for the minor leagues, I have a made major leagues check box. So I can tell you, even if they made it for a cup of coffee, then I have a different check box for all star. So guys I saw in the minor leagues who went on to become a major league all star. I have not yet seen a player in the minor leagues who has made the Hall of Fame. The prospects for that right now are Buster Posey and Joey Votto. I saw Buster Posey play in AAA when he was, right about to make it. He played when Portland had a team. I saw him play there for Fresno. And I saw Joey Votto play for the Sarasota Reds. So this is, high A. And I don't know that. I'm not a prospect ranker. Like, occasionally, like I saw Vlad Guerrero Jr. play for Buffalo. And so I knew he was something. Like occasionally see a guy and he was something. My home minor league team, the Hillsboro Hops, is high A, so I know when the guys are a first round pick. So I keep track of those dudes too. I've seen George Kirby play in the minors. I've seen, a lot of the Mariners guys come through. But like as far as Hall of Famers, like I'm waiting for either Votto or Posey to make it so
mhm.
that I can say, I saw that guy as a minor leaguer.
They're gonna have a good shot. I think Posey
Mhm.
and Votto, they're right on the cusp of making it in or not. And I think at
Right.
the end of the day, too, regardless, they had terrific careers. So being able to see them
Hmm.
play, especially when they were so young and before they had the name they, built over their major league career is really cool. And as I
Yeah.
said, you've been to a lot of ballparks. You've seen a lot of players that you don't know 5, 10 years down the line, they might be, legitimate
Hmm.
stars, right? So
Hmm.
that list's
Hmm.
going to keep growing, especially, the database you keep. It's really cool that you log all of that. And that brings me to my
Hmm.
next question. So you've been to 50 major league stadiums, obviously even more minor league stadiums, but 50 major league stadiums over the years. And I already saw your rankings online,
Hmm.
but for anyone that hasn't seen them yet, what's the breakdown of your top five and what makes those five kind of special and stand out compared to the rest?
My number one is Fenway. I went there in '99 before they did all of the renovations, and I was so you get off the tee at Kenmore and you walk down that street and everybody's you got all the hawkers and get your Red Sox cap here, get your Red Sox caps, and you're completely immersed in the ballpark before you get to the ballpark. And that liminal space as you're on your way, like I love that. And so then you get in there, and in '99, the Red Sox were sort of what I described the Mets fans are now. Like there's this, song, come on, you guys are letting me down again. And so I'm there, and I was surprised at how physically beautiful I found the place. Just the greens and the seats and the whatever. And so I'm young at that point, so I'm sitting out by the right field foul pole and contorting my body to see the game, but it was still just so cool. And then also the history of knowing all that had happened there. And I went back there 2 summers, summer before last, summer of 25 with my family. And that's when I met you. And because I wanted to see the changes, and Fenway understood that you can change the ballpark without giving up the things that made the ballpark beautiful. Like you can add those big scoreboards and you can add some of the luxury seating. I want the luxury seating to be out of the way and not in my way. And I'm never going to be able to afford to go there, but man, those monster seats look wonderful. Like I don't begrudge people with a lot of money sitting up there. That's awesome. And so that was fantastic. And also what happened the day after our game, we went the next day and I said, okay, I don't know when I'm going to be back. So I'm just going to splurge. I'm a teacher. I don't have a lot of money, but I want a better seat. I don't want to be way out in right field for the second game. So we were in the second deck right above first base. So we're there. And I didn't realize this, but in the back behind that is like a very Tony suite, like way up at the very top. There's corporate, like super rich dudes up there. Mm-hmm. So my younger kid shows up wearing a Baltimore Orioles hat, one of the old school ones with the bird on it, because he's like, oh, AL East. And the dude back there says, oh no, we will not have that. And he goes and he comes back and he hands my kid a green Boston Red Sox cap. Hands my kid a green cap. And he says, here you go. And Aaron, he's in 8th grade going into 9th for this. He starts putting it on and he's wearing it. And my kid has a very Fabio, beautiful, large hair. He's trying to put it on and it doesn't fit, but he's being very polite. He's like, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. This is wonderful. And the guy says, nope, that won't do. Give it back to me. Gives the cap back to Aaron and then comes back and says, okay, here's what you're going to do. He comes back with 6 hats of different sizes. And he says, you're going to try these on until one fits. Aaron tried it on. And that's it's like a $50 hat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, one thing I'm thinking about is, okay, if ever I were rich enough to sit in a suite, that's how I would want to spend my money, is like doing that, And so I get that, dude. And that was great. And then also that next day they played 3 innings of baseball and that was rained out. Mm-hmm. And the next day we were going to be in Rhode Island, crossing that state off my list. Mm-hmm. And so the next morning they say, all right, this ticket is good for the next day. We're going to finish the game starting at 1:00 and then we're going to do the next night's scheduled game. And I'm like, oh, that sucks because we paid a lot of money for those seats. Mm-hmm. And I called the Red Sox that morning as I'm going to get the rental car to drive to Rhode Island. And I say to the ticket guy, I say, hey, man, I know that we paid for these. And I know there's a risk when you do it that there's going to be a rain out. But we're on our way out. We can't go to the game. Is there anything you can do for me? And he said, hold on. And he asked for my Visa number and I gave it to him. And then he said, oh, Washington. Oh, you're a long way from home. He said, yeah, we'll give you your money back. And I'm like, he didn't have to do that. And in the modern late stage capitalism world, people will do the crappy thing that is more profitable instead of doing the good thing that's less profitable. And I said, hey, you have impressed me by doing that. You didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And he said, we try to be nice to people because then they might want to come back. And I'm like, go Red Sox, which is a thing I never thought I would say. Go Red Sox, man. That was just awesome. So Fenway is at the top. Beneath that, we've got Pittsburgh because it is so beautiful. We've got San Francisco because it is so beautiful. And those garlic fries smell for the whole place. And looking out at the bay, that is fantastic. Baltimore is there as well because it's sort of the OG of those ballparks. And number 5 is Minnesota. Because Minnesota manages to celebrate local baseball in a way that other major league parks do not. They have a thing in Minnesota called Town Ball, which is essentially a state championship for grown-ups. So these little town, and I went to a game in a little town called Miesville, Minnesota, which is store and a restaurant and a ballpark alongside a state highway. And it's fantastic. And the baseball is not great, and I don't care because it's literally field of dreams. You're hitting a home run into a cornfield.
Mhm.
And but they have the Town Ball Tavern with pictures of all of these small town and like, oh, in 2020, older than that, here's the 1955 Red Wing Minnesota team that won the Town Ball title. And I'm like, I love that. Like that, they know how to do that for me. And then they've got celebrations of all of the Twins and such in the past. But yeah, those are my top five.
That's a great top five, though. And there's obviously a difference with all those ballparks that we talked about earlier. Each one has its own history and its own feel.
Mhm.
And all five of those are in, different places, obviously. And obviously, too, different how old the ballparks are. They're all different ages, too, right? Fenway's
Yep.
very old ballpark. Then you got some newer ones on there as well.
Right.
And obviously, Target Field is one that I feel like a lot of people have told me is really nice. I've never been to. I didn't realize all
Mhm.
the history of it, too, that you said that they have there, which is really cool, which makes it stand
Yes.
out. And also, too, I have friends that one that lived in Minnesota for a little bit. He says tickets there are so cheap. You can get some good tickets and sit
Absolutely.
somewhere good and have a great view of the ballpark, right? Wherever you
Mhm.
are, which is
No,
which
you
is
can be
awesome.
up in that top deck behind home plate, which is the best bang for the buck in any ballpark.
Mhm.
You can do that for like, 20, 25, which right now is not bad. Right
Mhm.
now, that is not bad.
That's great.
Mhm.
Bang for your buck, like you noted. And I love that story with Fenway. Both of the stories you mentioned, the tickets obviously getting reimbursed after a
Right.
cancellation.
And meeting you. Like I'm trying to get better at talking to people at ballparks.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly an introvert, but like sometimes I would just rather sit and watch the game. But
Mhm.
as I travel, I'm trying to say, so I'm not from here. Tell me about this place. And
Mhm.
that's a good way to get people to talk. And I'm
Absolutely.
finding that makes my experience better.
I mean, that's kind of what happened with us. You guys were keeping
Yep.
score of the game, and I asked you about it. And then I think you took a picture of me and my friends as well,
Uh-huh.
if I remember correctly. And then it started a conversation. Look where we are
Yep.
today. It's like those small little conversations, you never
Yes.
know where they'll go. And obviously, you guys were able to see Fenway not only once, you went to a second game the next day and then had a whole
Mhm.
new experience, right? Which is the
Yes.
beautiful part of baseball and beautiful part of
Totally
baseball in
different day
general.
to day, part of the stadium to part of the stadium, opponent to opponent, totally different.
Absolutely. And you noted it already. Like each stadium and each place you go, every place has its own story. Each individual game has its own story, right? Like you mentioned going to the Braves game, you see Charlie Morton on the mound, and there's
Mhm.
different people around you that game than there was before, right? Like that's the beautiful part of, I think, sports in general, not just baseball, but
Mhm.
just sports, is all of the history, and then it brings everybody together, right? We all have one common love. We're there because we love baseball at the end of the day,
Right.
right? Which is the beautiful part of it. And you guys obviously take score of every game. Did that start right when you first started going to games as a kid? Did you keep score every
Yes.
game and then keep it going?
I don't remember score. The first game I went to was when I was 10, and I was with relatives in Detroit. And I don't remember scoring that game, but I do remember scoring the game I went to when I was 12.
Hmm.
And then I went to two more games in my early 20s. I went 10 years without going to a major league game. And I didn't score. I went to an occasional minor league game in Denver, but I didn't score those. But when I knew I was going on the big trip, Stephen, will you get me my very first scorebook? But I went to my very first when I knew I was going on that big trip that summer of '93. I went to the local sporting goods store and I bought a yeah, this is a little bit old. It's a little bit beat up
Look at
with the
this.
thing. I don't do this anymore, but I then what I would do, because newspapers were a thing at the time, I would go ahead and cut out the newspaper from it. But this to me is like my I'll go back to the early ones from the big trip. Like here we go. Rangers and Brewers, 1993. Like I've got the box score here, but of course I have it here. And like that is what I do. And so that is a built-in thing. And I'm on, I think, my 16th major league book and my 13th minor league book, and on my second unaffiliated minor league book.
Wow.
So I've got all of those filled. And if ever this house is on fire, I probably grab that box.
You'd have to. Those are history right there. That's record
Yes.
right there. That's really cool though. I like that you keep, at the time when newspapers are big, printing those out, throwing that on there. Because you
Yep.
can tell the score of the game, looking at the box score, but then you obviously have the writing as well to say, okay, what the journalist that wrote about that game thought. And then you obviously
Yeah.
have your own writing, right, about the ballparks and stuff like that, where
Right.
you kind of compare everything and then bring it all together, which that's a beautiful part of everything you do with that is you were consistent with, taking the score of every game you went to. I think I did when I was young, a couple games, and I feel like I lost the attention span, not for the game. I'd still be locked in, but I
Mhm.
wouldn't be paying attention to know, okay, it was a 6-4-3 double play, whatever it was, right? Which
Right.
obviously you can't miss a play. That was
Well,
that
I
was
mean,
another
I've
thing.
been to, hundreds of games at this point. I think the number's close to 800. I don't know, but like it feels weird not to at this point. Like,
Mhm.
if something occasionally, like every few years, something will happen to be like, oh God, I left the book at home.
Mhm.
So then I have to buy the scorecard and find a pencil at the park and do that. A
Mhm.
lot of people are doing it on devices now. There's
Mhm.
good apps to do that. Maybe I'm old, but that's just not for me. I need the tactile thing in front of me, and I can look back and be like, And then also people assume that I know things I do not.
Mhm.
Like the number of times I've been at a minor league game keeping score, and someone has said to me, "Oh, are you a scout?"
Mhm.
And my son has been asked that. My 16-year-old, 17-year-old son has been asked that at games because he's scoring it.
I've had people asking me that, or a couple beers down.
Sometimes the people have a couple of beers, Steven says, when they ask him that. But there was
No.
one time I was carrying my thing, and this was in Lake Elsinore, California. I was carrying my scorebook, and I went in. At the time, I would buy mini bats for every minor league team. I stopped doing that when they started charging to have checked baggage.
Mhm.
Okay. Because then it's like, oh, now it's $50 to take this bat home, and I'm not going to do that. But I did manage to get close to 100 bats, I think. Well, no, less than that, probably 60. And but I'm buying a mini bat in Lake Elsinore, and the woman says, "Are you a scout?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"Would a scout buy a mini bat? Like that doesn't make any sense." But the thing is, when you find the other people who are scoring, like
Mhm.
you bond right away. Like you're
Mhm.
like, okay, you're my people. And
Mhm.
people will turn and ask me, how many strikeouts does this person have? Like I went to an AUSL game a couple of weeks ago, and people are turning to me for information. Oh, how many strikeouts does Montana Fouts have? And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, she's got 10. Oh, thank you. And and so people will talk to me. It's like a big part of the sure. I'll show that. Here's my Lake Elsinore Storm bat that I
Nice.
got. That was that people made me think I was the mini bout scout, I guess.
That's great though. And thanks to Steven for getting the book, obviously, and the bats.
Mhm.
Showing those is a great way to obviously commemorate and look at all these things.
Come
And
on in, Stephen.
Steven, come on in, say what's up.
Hello.
How are we doing, Steven? A pleasure having you on. Thank
Doing
you so
good?
much for help getting the book and the bat.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Mhm. Okay.
yeah. It's
I
that.
know you're a future, sportscaster. I was talking to your dad about that, which
Hopefully.
down the line, if you ever want to come on, talk Mariners, talk whatever sport you like,
All
you're always
right.
more than welcome. The office is
All
always there.
right. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Joey.
Absolutely. Not a worry at all. It was a pleasure,
All
obviously,
right.
being able to meet you guys and meet him last year. I'm glad to get to see him again. But
Yeah.
I do have another question for you. I know
You
you've been
bet.
now over 800 games, you said. What's the best game you've gone to, whether it's minor league, major league,
Okay.
doesn't matter at the level, but what was the best
So
game you attended?
I was thinking about this, today, and I can't think of a minor league game that I find to be extraordinary. Okay. Now, my wife was at a minor league perfect game when she was working for a team. She was working for the Tri City Dust Devils, who are now an affiliate of the Angels. At the time, they're affiliate of the Rockies. And a pitcher named Kip Bucknight pitched 8 innings of a perfect game and then hit his pitch count. And a guy who never got a sniff of the major leagues came on and got 3 outs at the end, and it was a perfect game, and it was awesome. I've never experienced anything. I went to a no hitter in Worcester,
Mhm.
but it was combined, and combined no hitters don't excite me as much. At the minor league level, it's more about what happened when I was there. My wedding rehearsal dinner was in a minor league baseball game. My wife and I are both really into baseball,
Mhm.
and she and I had our wedding rehearsal dinner at a minor league baseball game, at an Everett Aqua Sox versus Tri City Dust Devils game, because part of the reason we met was she was working for the Dust Devils and knew I had taken her to some baseball games, and we had broken up earlier, but she started talking to me again about baseball, and now we've been married for 21 years. But
Mhm.
I sang the national anthem. She threw out the first pitch. Our wedding party were involved in all of the on-field promotions. So, they were doing the competitions and stuff were all, my brother and my uncle and all of the, her dad were all out there doing stuff. And it was just a joy. At the minor league level, I have to tell you about Sean O'Malley.
Not the boxer.
Not the boxer. So Sean O'Malley was a sort of a quadruple A guy for the Angels and then a couple of years for the Mariners, up and down between Tacoma and Seattle for a while. And he now is a major league hitting coach. He's hitting coach for the Nationals. But he was on the team. Okay, so Steven has scored games since he was literally 6 years old. And so watching him write down the lineups, with this pencil that's, the size of, a horse's leg, trying to get it on there. I have a lot of pictures of him sitting in front of the big lineups at a minor league park, writing down lineups. Okay. And we were at a Tacoma Rainiers game and someone came up and said, "Oh my God, this is a shot." And he had a beautiful equipment and the special thing where he had a stick where he put the camera down to ground level and took a shot. So we've got Steven cross-legged, 6-year-old Steven, cross-legged on the ground, writing something. And then in the background is the lineups. And I said, "Oh, who are you doing this for? What are you doing?" He said, "That is going to be the cover of the program coming up. That is the shot." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so I called the Rainiers when we got home. I said, "Hey, if I talked to the photographer today, I don't know if this is going to happen, but if you're going to have Steven on the cover, could you let us know? Because we want to go to that game." And they, sure enough, they let me know. They said, "Yeah, July 20th, so 2016, so he's 7 years old. July 20th, that's the day." And so I show up, we're at the game, we get a big stack of programs, and people are asking Steven to autograph the program. So 7-year-old Steven is writing his name on all these programs. And we go out before the game, and they've got a player signing autographs, and it's Sean O'Malley. And Sean O'Malley, Steven goes up and gets Sean O'Malley's autograph, and, little 7-year-old Steven says, "I'm on the cover of the program." And Sean O'Malley says, "Cover of the program? I should be getting your autograph." And then he looks to an usher. He says, "Get me a program." Usher goes and gets a program for Steven, okay? And tell me if you can see this or not. Steven then signs an autograph for Sean O'Malley. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's a great picture. Yeah.
So then years later, we're decorating our basement. This is the bobblehead portion of the basement. We're decorating our basement and we're like, okay, we got to get a picture of this. At the time, O'Malley is the hitting coach for the Rainiers. So we print out a nice copy of this, put it in, send it to Tacoma and say, "Will you sign this for us? Here's the story of what this is." He sends it back, signed with a note that says, "But make sure Steven signs it too." So Sean O'Malley has signed it, and Steven has signed it as well, and that is now up next to our television. So those are the memories I have of minor league games. Of major league games, there was a game where Felix was pitching against the Red Sox at what was then Safeco Field, and I was surrounded by the worst stereotypes of Red Sox fans. The people who were just like, "Who would live in Seattle? This sucks. Oh, Red Sox. And I'm just like, and then it gets worse as they drink more. And these were Mariner teams like the current version that could not hit. And watching Felix just deal and deal and deal, and I think he struck out 14 that day, just deal and deal. And it's like, he is owning the Red Sox. This is incredible. And the Mariners could not score. And the guys behind me, Red Sox, and the Mariners could not score. And then Felix shuts him down, and then the Mariners could not score. And somehow, in the bottom of the ninth, the Mariners pushed across a run. And I remember there was a throw. It was either a sac fly or a single that scored a guy from second. But the visual I remember is the ball is coming into whoever was catching for the Red Sox that day. You know your 2012 Red Sox catchers probably. But the guy didn't get the ball, and the player slid in. I don't remember which one it is. In my brain, it's John Jaso, but I could be wrong. And he turns and he slaps the plate, And I literally danced. I went, oh, and I went all the way down the row and all the way back up the row doing this and whatever. And like, that was astonishing. Like that, just because like I was so happy for Felix and I was so happy that these guys were sad. So that was a game that I remember. There was another one where Andy Pettitte pitched a no-hitter for like 6 innings against the Mariners, couldn't do anything. And then we won it on a grand slam by Edgar in the bottom of the 8th, and that was a lot of fun. I saw Junior hit 3 home runs in a game against the Yankees. I saw a 19-9 game in Pittsburgh where Josh Bell hit 3 home runs. I saw John Means pitch a no-hitter against the Mariners in Seattle. That was not so fun, but I've seen a no-hitter now.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen a triple play. I'd like to see that. My first inside the park home run was with you.
Yep.
My first major league inside the park home run. So anyway, I hope that's not too much, but when you ask me about baseball memories, you're going to get a lot.
No, that's great. That's the beauty of the podcast, Harry. You could always give as long of an answer as you want or as short of an answer, but I love the long answers because you told so much about all of the games you've seen over the years. You get, obviously, like we already mentioned, different ballparks, different feel, but I think always what kind of gets encapsulated in you breaking down your memories of the games you've seen, the games I've seen, is just the beauty of baseball. You can see something different every single game. Like you mentioned, a no-hitter through 6 innings for Pettitte. A grand slam in the bottom of the 8th ends up giving the Mariners a chance to win the game. They end up winning, right? Like this is such a cool story with every single game. That's the beauty of baseball. And I loved that story with Steven and getting the autographs signed and stuff from Sean O'Malley. Like those are stories he's going to tell his kids down the line.
Yes.
And so on, right? That's just going to keep going down the line of there was this really nice minor league baseball player that took the time to not only send me the autograph back, but then remembered Steven signed the original one. So I haven't signed this one too. And that's really cool though. And that's something you don't get at every major league ballpark. Minor league, I feel like the players are a lot more, because they're a little bit more accessible in minor leagues, but they're more open, to signing autographs and stuff there than they may at the major league level. Because you get more time, there's probably more space in a minor league game. So that's a really cool story. And I loved I love the story you talking about Ken Griffey Jr. as well. You said you saw him hit, was it 3 home runs in a game, you said?
3 home runs against the Yankees at the Kingdome.
Wow. He's my MLB GOAT. Ken Griffey Jr. So
all right, that's a good choice. I like a lot of Mariners more than I like Junior because I feel like Junior didn't need me. Like Edgar was sort of weird kinds of uncool, and so I liked him. I like Ichiro, but again, he was too cool. He didn't need me. Like I was into Edgar and I was into Felix because Felix kept losing in spite of being so good.
King Felix for a reason, right? I mean, he was amazing.
He was King Felix.
And he's right on the border of the Hall of Fame, right? So there's a chance he could find his way in. Is he still on the ballot, right? I was gonna say, I think he was this past year.
Oh, Felix, yeah, and he got a big boost this past year.
He did,
so
right?
I think he's got a shot over the next few years. It's gonna be tight, but I think he's gonna make it. And I might have to go to Cooperstown for induction weekend if he does. I don't like massive crowds, so induction weekend doesn't appeal to me. I thought of going for Edgar, but I didn't. But if Felix gets in, I mean, I went to Cooperstown for the first time like 5 days after I saw you in Boston. And I really, really liked it. I might want to go back in the winter just because it would be cool to be there when there's not 100 million baseball teams, youth baseball teams there. But like for Felix, I might have to show up.
You'd have to, especially if that's your guy, right? He's
my
favorite,
guy,
obviously, and a guy that you've loved for years. So you definitely have to be there to support him. And I think he has a good shot at getting in, which would be really cool. I don't want to have too much more of your time, Paul. I have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
One about your writing and then one about you being an official for as many years as you did. Obviously, as I said, you're a terrific writer, which, as I said, I'm going to promote your Substack here on the podcast.
I'm going to get such a big head if you keep talking to me here.
No, you are a great writer. There was a quote. I actually had it written down that I want to mention. When we talk about Shea Fielder, I meant to go back and talk about it. But you said in one of the things you wrote about Shea Stadium, at Shea, it won't be long before loan offices open next to the concession stands so that you can talk to someone about whether or not you can afford a slice of pizza and a Coke. Well, that was an unreal line. I read that earlier and I was like, I got to talk to him and mention that line because that's brilliant. Brilliant.
And that was 1999. It's worse now.
Yeah, it only got more expensive. That's brilliant writing there. I saw that and I was like, I got to mention that line because not only is it funny, it's realistic and it's true, right? Like back then and now, even more so today, you go to a game and you're spending an arm and a leg to get a hot hot dog, a soda, and a pretzel.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then you add in the ticket cost and you have to
Mhm.
park somewhere. It's crazy how expensive a ball game can be.
Well, and since you mentioned that,
Mhm,
like to me, that is a major danger to the kind of local feel that I like.
mhm,
Like if heating and air conditioning people can't even afford to go to Citi Field anymore, and then at all of the ballparks, you're just going to get, you're going to get millionaires.
mhm,
And I don't know that the millionaires in Seattle are that different from the millionaires in New York, from the millionaires in Miami.
mhm,
And so if you want it to continue, and historically, baseball has been a place where we all can mix.
mhm,
And historically, baseball has been a place where the races would mix back when they would not be able to mix in other places. Like,
mhm.
I want to mix, and I'm worried that and the World Cup showed this too. I'm worried that we're being priced out of the ability to come together.
hmm hmm And that's the tough thing, right? You want to bring family to games and create the memories that
Mhm.
obviously you and your family were able to have. And down the line, tickets are only going to get more expensive, it seems, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
tougher and more difficult for people to go to as many games as they'd like to, right? You might only make kids down the line might only see one game a summer rather than seeing maybe five or six if they saw five or six when they were younger 5 years ago, right? Things are going to get more and more expensive. You're right, though, especially with the World Cup, those ticket prices were crazy,
Oh,
especially
they
if
were
you see
insane.
it in Buffalo.
It was a bucket list thing for me. In '94, the World Cup was in the United States, and I just had no money because I'd spent it all on the baseball thing the previous year. And I'm like, I thought of flying to Detroit to go to a game with relatives in the Silver Dome, and then I was just like, I just can't afford it. But if ever it's back, I will go.
hmm
And then it came back, and I couldn't go,
hmm
and that made me so sad.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
well.
was difficult. Even for me, I had friends that wanted to go, and you look and you try to get them when they're a pre-sale, and even then, it's kind of like a war to try to
Mhm.
get them. And then once they get
Yep,
to the secondary market, it's thousands
you
and
got no
thousands of
chance.
dollars,
Mhm.
right? At that point, it's like no point in going in that case. But I did mention obviously your writing, and that Shea Stadium I thought was brilliant, and I wanted to
Thank
point
you.
that out. But all of your writing's great. I look forward to reading The Rules Guy at some point. What was the motivation behind writing that book? I'd love to hear some of your insight on that.
I mean, the motivation is I've just always been a writer, and the motivation is I have things in here that I want out there. That's the motivation. But in this particular case, I wanted to write a short story about a high school girlfriend of mine who had sort of a rough family situation, and I've always wanted to write a short story about a referee who was having trouble on the court. I just, because there's a lot going on in a referee's brain and nobody cares about it. And so I sort of wanted to put it out into the world. And you know that with your umpiring.
Yep.
And I don't know why I decided, but I'm like, well, what if these happened in the same place? What if it were the same story? And so then I set out to write a short story and I just do. This is like 8 years ago. And then I had like a 95-page novella. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is interesting. And then I'm like, okay, but there's more. There is more to these people. And I want to know what happens to these people. And I'm not going to know what happens unless I write it. And so then I wrote it again. And now I've got a 288-page novel, a bunch of revisions later. And I have a novel about a referee who is also a high school teacher who's got a 17-year-old at home, who has a troubled girlfriend, who has a wife who doesn't like the girlfriend, who has an idiot boss at his school where he works as a fifth grade teacher, and he is trying to figure out what rules mean in each of these situations. That's the book, and I hope that you and your listeners will give it a read and send it to their friends who like reading or their enemies who hate reading.
I've gotten more and more into reading over the past couple months. I've been reading a lot more
Uh-huh.
over the summer, and I've been telling all my friends that are starting to get more into reading, oh, it's great, because I love it. Now I'm on the train every day, and before I
Oh
take the
yeah.
main line, and I would just be sitting there listening to music when I had homework to do, and I was still in school. I do homework every now and then, but now the last couple months, I'm like, I might as well spend time reading. I get 40, 50,
Great.
60 minutes of reading in on the way in, 40, 50, 60 minutes, depending on how quick I get home on the way
Mhm.
home. I've read about I think 5 books since the start of June,
Mhm.
and I'm definitely looking forward to reading yours. So where can people access a copy of that?
Well, by the end of October, it's not up yet,
Okay,
but by I'm about to it's about to be released into the world. And
okay,
that will be by the end of October. You will be able to find it on Amazon. Rules Guy, Paul Hamann, The Rules Guy by Paul Hamann. I also will have a website up that I don't yet have ready, but you can go to therulesguy.substack.com And there I've got a handful, it won't be many, but I've got a handful of essays sort of around the issues in the book that you're welcome to look at while you wait for the book to come out into the world.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A couple months away, it'll be out, which is awesome. And I
Mhm.
have two more questions for you. As I said, I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you taking this time. But obviously, you mentioned that you were an English teacher for a long time. You've been in the education system for around 30 years right now, I'd say, right
I'm
at this
about
point,
to start year 30.
which is really impressive. So
Mhm.
what's your favorite part of being an educator, especially for as long as you have 3 decades now?
And I was an English teacher. I taught mostly high school, mostly English for 21 years, and I'm about to start my ninth year as an instructional coach, which is a teacher position where you go in and you help teachers with to accomplish the things that the teachers want to accomplish. And the
Mhm.
best part of being a teacher is being in a classroom where learning is happening. The classroom is sacred, eternal, and beautiful. Whether it was my classrooms through the years, anywhere from kindergarten through 12, any subject, when you've got a teacher who's busting their butt and students who are trying super hard, that is sacred, eternal, and beautiful. It's been true, Aristotle's classrooms were wonderful, all the way up to the classroom I will be visiting on the second day of school next month. They're all wonderful, and just that there is something almost like a ballpark. Like there's an energy that I love being in as a teacher and now as a coach of teachers. I love that, and that is the only possible answer to that question is the beauty of an active, exciting classroom has not been duplicated in my life anywhere else.
Mhm. It's a great way to put it. And each school year brings a new beginning, right? Like you said with sports, everything
Mhm.
has a story, right? And that energy of a new school year. And then the same thing at the end of the school year, right? There's an energy to that too. Kids are
Mhm.
summertime, but there's that energy, like you mentioned, in the classroom. And you bring a lot of
I'm glad you mentioned the first day of school too, because first day of school, I say to my students, you are all perfect. There is hope, kind of like the hope of opening day of a baseball season. There is hope, and we're going to hold on to this perfection as long as we possibly can.
Absolutely. It's a great way to
Mhm.
put it. It's a great way to put it. Like a baseball season is a new beginning, new start,
Yep.
fresh beginning. And leads me to my next question. Obviously, you had an end of an era in the last few years. You stopped officiating games. I was reading some of your writing the last couple of days about the last game you did in basketball where you realized
Mhm.
this is probably going to be it after doing it for, I think it was around 20 years. Was it 25 years?
24 years on the court for me. I
24
took
years.
a I took a break for 3 years when I injured my vocal cords, but other than that, it was 24 years of refereeing.
That's really impressive, though. And
Mhm.
obviously, sure, you saw a lot over the years. You heard a lot, just like I've only umpired for 3 years, but you hear it all from,
You do.
good feedback when someone's like, hey, you did really well today making the calls you made. And then you'll hear people that are upset and still yelling at you as you're walking out. That'll
Mhm.
happen any given day. But you mentioned, obviously, in there, staying calm in the storm. I was reading your writing about that.
Mhm.
You said stay calm in the storm. You also mentioned when everything gets more chaotic around you as a referee, that's when you have to be at your best and kind of be your calmest, which is honestly
Mhm.
the truth of it. You can't let the outside noise kind of affect the next call you're going to
Mhm.
make. What was the most difficult part, I would say, of refereeing for you? And then what was kind of your favorite part?
80% of the coaches that I dealt with in high school basketball were great people. And yeah, they would get upset if I kicked a call, but they get over it. And I recognize it's an emotional thing. And so, yeah, I forgive you. That's fine. That's not a problem. But that means that somewhere between 10 and 20% of the coaches were just terrible. Like either they were yellers or they were haranguers or they were like, travel, travel, and one, just doing that the whole game. And I just got tired of that. And when I had a coach just drop a bunch of F bombs on me at one point, I was driving home and I was thinking there's got to be a more of a penalty for this than two shots in the ball.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember as I was driving home, and this was in year 23, I remember being really angry and just saying to myself, I don't have to put up with this. And then that changed to, wait, I don't have to put up with this.
Mhm.
And that was when it became realistic for like, well, wait, I don't really have to do this anymore. I don't need the money.
Mhm.
Like, and my sons are about to start high school and I want to be available for them and such. Like, is it worth it to go out? Because like if about 10 to 20% of the coaches are going to be terrible to me, That means I'm working 3 nights a week and I'm doing a JV varsity doubleheader each night. That's 6 teams a week. That's 12 coaches a week. I am guaranteed to have at least one bad experience every week. And if I had a hobby where once a week it was going to make me feel bad, I need a new hobby. And so that was why I stopped it. So, what was the thing I hated the most? Those coaches. Like, fans never bothered me because they're ignorable. A coach is not ignorable. A coach you have to talk to. And I was just like, I don't want to talk to you. If I were in a restaurant and you were there, I wouldn't want to talk to you, but now I have to. The things that I miss the most are just the challenge, like the puzzle in front of you that you have to solve, and you have to solve it immediately. Like, okay, how much contact was there? Were they there? What's the appropriate rule to use here? Was there an advantage gained? Was there a similar play earlier that we want to call similarly? What are my partners doing? And you have to factor all of that in tenths of a second and make a decision. And that was a high that I enjoyed. And also what you mentioned, I like the feeling of being the only calm guy in the room. I really enjoyed that. And that I do miss.
That's the special part of doing these games, right? Is like you mentioned too, the camaraderie between referees, right? People that you're going to see and people that have umpired games with, coaches that have umpired their games now dozens of times now over the last few years. You create a relationship with them, you get to know them a little. And like you said, once you get on that court, though, it's all about just making the right call. It's not, like you mentioned, someone's favorite sports teams or where they're from or anything else, like what they're driving, right? Like you said, like everyone's on that court together, and your goal is just to make that right call, just like, your partner referee is trying to do that same exact thing, which is the best part of it. And I'd say the same thing with me umpiring. I think you mentioned a lot of the same things. I think that the beauty of it is kind of trying to stay calm in the storm. And then also, I love giving back, right? They're looking for referees and umpires like everywhere, right? Because games
because people like me are quitting. Like, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand. Like, we are canceling middle school basketball games in my county because we don't have enough refs to do it. And because young people are like, I don't want to do that. Like Steven is starting to referee a little bit. And he will ask me sometimes, how do I handle somebody who's yelling at me? And he'll come home and be like, this fan was saying this thing that I know is not true. And it's like, a lot of the young people like just don't want to deal with it. And because of that, like, people don't make the connection. And I even make the connection all the way up to I think of college basketball. I think of Dan Hurley and the way that he acts. He doesn't understand that he acts like that, which means that fans and high school coaches act like that, which means that people don't want to referee, which means that we're canceling games. Because people are acting in a way that is not appropriate to act around kids, we're not able to do this for all the kids that we could. And I wish that were out there more prominently.
That's a good point, though, because then the kids on the team that are playing, they can argue the next call and be, irate and screaming and yelling and stuff. And like you said, it kind of is.
I didn't have any trouble with players. Like, very seldom did I have a player who bothered me. It was all coaches and parents.
And which, that's the thing, right? They're the ones that are supposed to be setting the example, right? In being leaders, and especially a coach, right? They have a lot of power on the team, and the players are going to listen to them and all that. So it's about them setting the right example. But you obviously did put in your time. 24 years is a long time to do it. So you gave your time. Now, obviously, you have a son doing it, so he's giving back.
Yes.
Great. And that'll lead me to my last question, which obviously you do like to sing. I know I noted obviously as well that in the beginning, I think I mentioned that you sang the national anthem in a minor league stadium. You've done that now multiple times, right? The Hillsborough Hops game you did recently.
I haven't. I did the one in Everett for my wedding as well. So I've done it, I think, 6 times now, once in Everett and 5 times in Hillsborough.
That's really cool, though. And how did you manage getting your first time to do it? Was it for your wedding? Was that the first time?
Oh, gosh. Well, yeah, it was for the wedding. And so once we found out that the Aqua Sox were going to be at home the night before our wedding, Michelle and I, we knew we wanted that to be our rehearsal dinner, and we were so glad we were going to get the chance to do that. And so we called the promotions person for the Aqua Sox, and we said, hey, we want to do this. We want to do a rehearsal dinner there, have dinner out on the, out on the concourse before, and then, come in and watch the game with all the people I love in the world. And she loved it. She was like, here's the problem. We said, if anything is going to end this marriage before it begins, it's going to be an argument over who throws out the first pitch. And then she jokingly said, the promotions woman from Everett jokingly said, well, I guess I could have one of you sing the anthem. And I'm a singer. And so I'm like, I'll do that. And she's like, oh, you're not going to go all Roseanne Barr on me, are you? And I said, no, I will do it. And so that is how I got to do it. And then with Hillsborough, after they were there a few years, they were having tryouts. And I said, I would like to do this. And so I do that. And they give me 4 tickets to a game that I sing at. And when I was there a couple weeks ago, the last time I did an anthem, the woman, she was taking me back to the seat, said, are you going to stay for the game? And I'm like, am I going to stay for the game? I sing, A, because it's wonderful, and B, because then I get free tickets to the game. So I can just sit and watch the game. So yeah, I've done that a few times.
And you'll be keeping score of the game too, right? So you get
I do. I sing, and then I go and I sit down and I score.
There you go. You get the whole experience. That's awesome. Well, that's a great story. I'm glad that you were able to do it as many ballpark or as many times you have, and now at multiple ballparks is really cool. What's your go-to karaoke song?
See, I'm different from a lot of people in that I try not to do the same song twice in my lifetime. I try to always show up and do. I have a mental list of how many songs I've done in karaoke over my lifetime. But the critical thing about karaoke is know your audience. And 3 times I have been up there singing and caused everybody to get up and dance. And once I was at a place that I could tell leaned a little bit country. And so I got up and I sang Kenny Rogers' She Believes in Me. Everybody got up and danced. And once I was at a place where everybody was drunk and I got up and I sang Rick James' Super Freak. And everybody got up and danced. Well, yeah, I was at a place where everybody was drunk. And so I sang Super Freak and everybody got up and danced. And then I was at a very Portland place that was very Portlandy in a Portland way. And so I decided I would sing the Cake version of I Will Survive, and everybody got up and danced. So with karaoke, for me, it's not about having a go-to song. It is about reading the audience and finding the song that's right for them.
And that's a point of being someone that knows as much music as you do. You can get up and okay, what's the feel that'll fit this crowd, right? You got to know a lot of music to do so, whether it's Frank Sinatra, whether it's like you mentioned as well, doing Kenny Rogers. Like, you never know what type of crowd's going to like what song, but you got to read the crowd, just like when you're refereeing a game, you got to read the situation, right? And make an idea right off impact. Say, you know what, is that a foul or is it not? You're going to go right off the top of the head, like you said, make a decision quick. So it's really cool you're able to do that. Obviously sing the national anthem at multiple places, and then also sing karaoke and obviously find a way to get everybody up. So thank you so much for your time, Paul. Truly was a pleasure having you on today. I would love to have you on again in the future, talk some Mariners. I know we didn't get to that today, but down the line.
I can talk Mariners, but I don't know. How do you allow cussing on the podcast?
I typically don't, but hey, when we're talking baseball, you never know.
Okay, I'll be good. But when I talk about Mariners, those are the words I use usually.
You never know where to go when we're talking ball, right? That's the thing. There's passion to baseball. But truly, though, thank you so much, Paul, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen, as well, for his help bringing obviously in and showing the wooden bat, the books. Thank you so much, Stephen. Love to have you on again one day too, to have you come on and talk some baseball. It'd be great.
All right.
That'd be great.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. I hope you have a great rest of your summer. Enjoy it, and looking forward to your book coming out. I'll definitely promote it on Instagram, on the Spotify that I post, YouTube. Whenever you have that out, that book, I'll definitely throw it up on the Instagram to promote it.
It's been a pleasure, Joe. You've been very kind, and I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. You have a great rest of your day now.
All right.
Take care.